Going through for you the essential quotes from what we know is captured in this documentary, this explosive documentary that many are now queuing to watch at the International Conference Center. Ketsi Anasa Rimayanas himself, who in an article this morning published some of the details. My colleague Kojo Brace joins me in the studio. What we're going to do, Kojo, is simply focus on the direct quotes in the Anas article today. And we expect that will be reflected in what people will be watching from 5 p.m. Tonight. And so let's lay the foundation for this. So in the article, Anas says they met Charles Edubuaheng allegedly in the United Arab Emirates in a hotel room. He had come in with businessmen who were posing as businessmen who wanted to do business in Ghana, and they wanted to meet the vice president. And a lot transpired. Let's start with the first essential quote attributed to Charles Edubuaheng, who, by the way, has today been sacked.
Okay, so the quote is, you mean like appearance fees and stuff? I mean, he himself, the vice president, if you give him some 200,000 US dollars or something as a token, as a thank you, appreciation, that's fine. He's not really like that. All he needs is to worry about his campaign money in 2020. Charles Edubuaheng revealed.
And then there's another quote here that says, quote, so if you come with 3 or 4 projects and you say, we are doing this, we are doing that, we are prepared to write a check for this, write a check for that. You see, he has a big family. The vice president has about 5, 6 brothers and sisters. So what may be will happen is, if you tell him, the vice president, that, hey, look, I want to do this project. Do you have somebody that I can work with? That you will introduce me to. And then, he, the vice president, will use that to immediately put his brother to work with us on a particular project. That's how we would be able to work with him, the vice president. You know what I mean? You see what I'm saying? And the development of his business. That's another quote from him. And then there's another quote from Edubuaheng.
It says, the president himself is also like my uncle. He was my father's campaign manager when my father was running for office. So he will also come in. But you know that at the operational level, the vice president is the one who handles everything. So he's the guy we should go and meet.
Okay, they're still talking about the vice president there. And then Edubuaheng comes in another quote. Excellent, excellent. I was just telling Isaac, we don't know who Isaac is, but it's in a quote, that I have to introduce you to the vice president. The vice president is a very good man. And he used to be the deputy governor of the Bank of Ghana. So if I tell him you want to come and open a bank, he will prefer it that way. As soon as you can, I have to introduce you because, even if I'm going to handle something like this, he is somebody that I have to bring in at some level, even if not the whole details, because, it is important that you get to know him. That's another quote from him.
So after the investors telling him that they wanted to invest around 500 million, he comes in again.
So the investor wanted to invest $500 million
US dollars. Okay. Yes. He comes in again to say, okay, no problem. Okay. Let me think about that because I think we can manage something. Okay. This is tough. Sheikh, that's the right address, right? What should I call you? Okay, Sheikh, 20%, he finally said.
Okay. So, and if you read the description to this quote, Anas in his article says that's him charging 20%, an amount of 20% on the 500 million that will be invested, to him as a commission for his service. Okay, and then there's another quote here. He said, "Let me give you an example." So then, according to Anas, he goes into then also offer other ways in which he will be paid.
Yeah,
and then he says this quote: "Let me give you an example. I own myself a real estate company." So we are into real estate. So we just finished an office block. I don't want to make money that I haven't worked for. I believe in working for money. If let's say we want to do affordable housing projects, which would cost $50 million, you can come in and share that with me. If you bring the whole $50 million for the project, you can earmark 20% of that $50 million as mine. And whatever returns I make on that 20%, I keep. Or you put the money to work and give me 10% finance fee and then give me share of whatever returns on the project as well. We normally would make a return of 25% returns, 30% dollar equity rate when we do projects like that. So let's up to it. So it's up to you and how you are comfortable with and how you want to work, he said also.
Okay. So then he tried to lobby for the supposed entity to buy a debt instrument bond that was not successful. Now, quote is, but you are not allowed to buy any debt instrument. We issue bonds. We just issued those energy bonds. Is he allowed to? Can you buy bonds?
So that's him also getting them to see him into a
bag.
policy bag, and the bundle off. Now, in this same documentary, though, there's another element of this that the article also talks about, and that there was also a legal practitioner who is not a public officer holder in a separate meeting that they also met. Anas says a senior solicitor and a traditional chief said he was not in a position to control or suggest a package for the president of Ghana, that's the president, Anado, and the vice, Dr. Bahud Bawumia, in a meeting in a hotel room, saying, United Arab Emirates. But the lawyer, Anas says, told Tiger Eye investigators who pose as a business tycoons that he cannot manipulate the president to do his bidding. However, he will try to help them have access to the president. And his vice and some influences to do their business. What's the quote associated with this?
Okay.
With this this individual who was a legal practitioner, a legal practitioner who is not a public office holder in a separate meeting that they also met.
So the quote says, "I'll try. I'll do my best." You see, we are talking of the president, so I cannot tell you that I can control the president, but I can tell you that I'll do my best to ensure that whatever you want shall be done. You see, I think it's a bit too early for me to start talking about these things. I mean, talk about the package for the president, etc. For me, money is important, but money is not everything. It is the relationship. When we have a good relationship, money will come. So don't worry about the package. We can always do that. You are a good man, so let's leave that one out. But in Ghana, when you set up business and you engage local partners, you, the investor, you must retain at least 75%, which gives you the control. At least, let's say, speaking in respect of the bank, he advised. He also said he was instrumental in the appointment of Edu Boahen.
Okay, so that's a quote Anas Aremi Anas and his team are attributing to this person they describe as a legal practitioner who is not a public office holder, who they met in a separate meeting. I want to take you now to the Accra International Conference Center, where my colleague Kojo Yang Singh is part of, I believe, a queue of people waiting to watch this. Kojo, has it started yet?
Actually, it's about to start any minute now, Evans. The ambience inside the room is already set for the airing. They've switched the lights off. The seats are almost all full. Before the lights went off, I caught a glimpse of people from academia, from civil society, journalists, and masses of people from the general public who are now even more interested in this documentary than before, following the revelations of the involvement of the Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, or former Minister of State at the Finance Ministry. So the room is full, the lights are dim, there is an image of a Ghana flag on the screen, and any moment now, that clip is going to start rolling.
Any sight of Anas himself in his mask?
Not yet. As you can imagine, he's likely to be snuck into the auditorium while the lights are dim, and he will probably locate himself in a safe corner until it's time for him to reveal himself, probably at the end of the screening. At the moment, there's no sight of him. The MC has announced the start of the clip, but these are the quiet moments before the tape starts to roll.
And Kojo, will come to you at the end of this. We don't know yet how long this is.
Not yet, but we're expecting it to last longer than an hour.
You want to stay with us for that? Kojo will watch, brief us, because the identities of more individuals are at stake here in terms of the lawyer in question, the chief, and etc. Other people who had been mentioned in this article that was published today. My Samson Lada Yenini is a lawyer, also a colleague here, host of Newsfile, joins us on the telephone line right now. Hello, Samson.
Evan.
Great to have you, Samson. And Samson, we know that the president referred this to the special prosecutor for action. I'll get your thoughts on what possibly the special prosecutor could be looking into as far as the law is concerned. But first, I want you to listen to Gideon Boako, who, of course, is the spokesperson. Dr. Gideon Boako is a spokesperson for the Vice President, who has been giving an official response to the revelations today. You know, the Vice President was mentioned, and sometimes I think that will be interesting to you. He reveals in this interview that the Vice President is tonight meeting with his own lawyers and is considering his own options, legal options. This is Dr. Gideon Boako.
Well, you need to ask yourself when I was contacted to speak to the allegations earlier. You understand? Yeah. So it's just yesterday that my attention was drawn to this video, and I gave the response that I gave. And we haven't seen the content of the video. What we have seen is the statement or an article that was put on the social media page by Anas Aramaya Anas, following which I had personal conversations with Anas Aramaya Anas to find out from him if what has been written on social media is coming from him. And he confirmed, yes, it is true, and it is not substantially different from what is in the video. So then we had something to respond to, and that's the basis on which the Vice President issued the statement.
Has Charles Edu Boahen approached the Vice President's office with any business proposals?
Not that as I know.
There are no business proposals that have come to the Vice President's office through Charles Edu Boahen?
I'm not aware of any such thing. The government is big. Edu Boahen is a Minister of State, and so I am not privy to every conversation that he has with any actor in government. But as far as I know, there's a protocol that goes on in the Vice President's office. If anybody wants appointment for anyone, it's either through me, his personal aide, spokesperson, advisor, or through the Executive Secretary, Augustine, or through the Calendar Secretary, Lizzie. Any other person who wants appointment, no matter what, will have to come through us. If it is a letter that is written, the letter has to be responded to by Augustine. And so there's a formalized process that things go. But these persons in question have never come to the Vice President's office or house to have a meeting with the Vice President through Charles Edu Boahen. And so I can say categorically that there is nothing like that. The Vice President had not had any meeting through Charles or any other person with some people who say they want to establish bank in this country. And I'm happy that as far as what Anas put out is concerned, and that is what is going to be in the video, there's no evidence or trace in the video or what Anas put out that suggests that subsequent to Mr. Charles Edu Boahen's conversation, they followed up to come and see the Vice President with the mentioned businessmen. There has never been anything like that.
Now, the article quotes Charles Edu Boahen as saying, and I quote, "But you know that at the operational level, the Vice President is the one who handles everything. So he is the guy we should go and meet." Can you confirm that the Vice President is the operational lead when it comes to the banking sector and investment?
That's laughable. How can a Vice President be in charge of the banking operations in the country whilst there's a supervising or regulatory body and there's a finance ministry that is directly responsible for this? I see some of these comments, if they are true, to be, political grandstanding. And I don't think Charles was being smart enough. I wouldn't fault him much because I haven't seen the video myself. But if what we have seen or read is anything to go by, I see an act of indiscretion and maybe embellishment of somebody's thoughts and minds, because there's an executive president. The Vice President is also playing the supporting role, and the Vice President's role is always determined by what the President wants him to do constitutionally. And so some of these comments as this person is the most important thing or the most the person in charge of operations. I haven't seen that rule anywhere that a certain vice president is in charge of operations.
And that's, you had there is Gideon Boako, who is Dr. Gideon Boako in the office of the vice president. There's more from him pretty shortly where he addresses what how the vice president has been reacting to this and the meetings that he's taking with his lawyers to deal with this matter. Something is with me now. Something, so the president today, when he took the decision to sack Charles Adubuahin, referred it to the special prosecutor. The assumption there is that, he may have broken one law or the other. I mean, what really, based on your reading of the law, could the special prosecutor possibly be investigating?
Well, Evans, to go straight to the point without belaboring any matter, if you look at our Criminal and Other Offences Act, 29, as amended, if you look at section 252, and that's where I suspect this will fall on. I don't know how the special prosecutor may think, but from what I see, this may be what will come to play. And that provision is headed accepting or giving bribe to influence a public officer or juror. So you are either accepting or you are giving a bribe to influence a public officer or a juror. And section 251, subsection 1, as amended, says a person shall not accept or agree or offer to accept a valuable consideration under the pretense of having unduly influenced or being able or agreeing to influence any other person in respect of functions as a public officer or a juror. In this respect, the person named is a public officer without any doubt. If you call him, he's occupying a political office by appointment. He clearly, from what we have been told and we have seen, was offering to accept. You remember in the interaction, as recorded, he talks about being offered, 20% here and there. He says he doesn't want to, he wants money that he has worked for. That's from work, isn't it? So in that regard, he was agreeing to accept, or he was offering to accept a valuable consideration with the knowledge, and that is what he used to influence, so to speak, to influence or being able to influence, the things that whoever it is was seeking. And I've heard already being suggested that the president is the one making the reference to the special prosecutor. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. If you read the Special Prosecutor Act, it's very clear what the mandate of the special prosecutor is, particularly in Section 2. And then when you go forward to Section 79, it talks about this particular provision of the law that I have referred to. That is Section 252, and including 253 as well, that the special prosecutor, has a mandate that includes offenses in this direction.
But
and then in the special prosecutor's Special Office of Special Prosecutor Operations Regulation 2018, if you read Section 1, Section 2, you would find, and even Section 3, you would find how anybody is allowed to submit a complaint. So if the president is the one who is making the reference will be treated as a complaint. And the special prosecutor is empowered by all the laws that we have so far to act on them.
But coming back to the possible offense, there is no evidence yet, and maybe the full documentary may prove otherwise, but from the article at least, this is best was an attempt. You know, as we've heard, the Guido Baku say this is political grandstanding, and the man himself, who the quotes attributed to him, was, yes, suggesting $200,000 is what you need to pay to see the president, and yes, I'll charge you 20% on the $500 million, but there's no evidence that was actually paid to him. Wouldn't that matter in any the application of the law if the special prosecutor, plans to take this up?
I'll be interested to see and hear what the special prosecutor will have to say. But in our law, in our criminal jurisprudence, sometimes attempt is sufficient. You don't need to have consummated the crime. Attempt may be sufficient in what we refer to as inchoate offense. So you can make an attempt, and that can constitute sufficient grounds for which a prosecution can be mounted and mounted successfully. Look, corruption is difficult to fight, and as it's understood, it is the misuse of entrusted power for private gain. So,
yeah, but don't you have to prove that there has actually been gain at the end of this? Because this could boil down to somebody just running his mouth, right, in a meeting, claiming that I can introduce you and I want to charge you this. But if that's where it ends, I mean, what can you hold him to?
Yeah, we have been here before having to, in the Kwesi matter, similar, defenses were raised. But as you and I know, the matter is live in the court. So I can only say let's wait and see, because we have seen him also post a tweet and say that he's going to cooperate with the investigation and is interested in seeing how it ends. But like I mentioned earlier, sometimes you don't have to complete the offense. Sometimes the attempt itself is punishable. It is the reason that I suppose we are presently talking about the 95 MPs who have confessed that there was someone who attempted to bribe them. The question of the attempt is sufficient enough to proceed on. And that's why the special prosecutor has also taken up that matter upon the petition by Occupy Ghana to investigate that matter. If in the end there could not be a matter to prosecute, I doubt the special prosecutor would have accepted, that complaint and commence investigations in it when he knows that the end game will be that it will not bring up anything. In one case, some precedent may not be exactly direct. In one case, our court said that the offense of accepting a valuable consideration to influence the public officer is committed whether the valuable consideration is accepted by the official who made the demand for himself or for another. I believe that we can only wait and see.
And very finally, something very quickly on another aspect of that had come up is that this letter announcing the sacking of the Minister of State was under the authority of the President. But the President is out of the jurisdiction and the Vice President is acting. A suggestion that some had made and said, well, if the President is not here and the Vice President who is acting, then that decision should have been taken by the Vice President. What do you say about that legally?
If you have heard some people fault the Supreme Court when President Kukwasa went with the case about absence from Ghana does not mean inability to perform your functions, as president, you will understand that in this day and age, the president is not in Ghana. But that does not mean that he is incapable of performing his functions whilst he's away. So he could give, obviously, he would have given instruction that this is what ought to be done. And when you are acting, you cannot be taking such a decision without reference to the president, at least. This is a substantive major decision to take, to sack or dismiss an appointee of the president. You cannot, in your acting capacity, so motu, take that decision. You can't. And like I said, well, we're in a virtual world now. The president, as we understand, he made a call to him. He spoke to the minister and told him that this was a decision that he was going to take. It's as simple as that. And his executive secretary and various other officials are within the presidency, and he can instruct them to do what has been done.
Something grateful for that point on the law as far as this is concerned, with the developing story today about the sacking of the Minister of State, the Finance Minister, Charles Edubuahing. That documentary is currently premiering at the International Conference Center. There is more on this. We're hearing from the Parliament now, reactions coming from Parliament to this. We'll also hear more from Dr. Gideon Buako, who has been detailing the Vice President's desire to ensure that all options are explored in punishing Charles Edubuahing if indeed he's indeed made the pronouncement attributed to him. Newsnight starts right now.
Good evening and welcome to Newsnight. In the next 60 minutes.
The president in handling it as a special prosecutor may not be enough, but Yoko itself must come on board.
Deputy Minority Chief Whip calls on President Akufo-Addo to commission Yoko to open parallel investigations into claims made by Ministry of State at the Finance Ministry in their Nas Galamsey economy expose, encouraging businessmen to invest in bonds. We'll bring you details on that.
And we'll also be live at the Accra International Conference Center and bring you the full detail on the back of the premiering of that explosive investigative piece. Our colleagues are watching. They'll be talking to us here on Newsnight Plus, while the Vice President is sitting down with his lawyers tonight.
What is driving the cost of the product or the food is not necessarily about the thing itself, but you have to look at the inputs that's going into it. Fertilizer, and when they harvest the food and you're transporting it, the cost of fuel.
Fix structural bottlenecks driving inflation instead of setting up grocery stores. Senior economists charge government to tackle the rising cost of fuel and farm inputs, which is pushing the cost of foodstuff. We'll hear from the ministry on this and much later also.
And so, as minister, I got a Forestry Commission to conduct investigations into this matter. They presented their report to me. I know that there's a petition before the Criminal Investigations Department. So I forwarded the report of the Forestry Commission to the Interior Minister for onward submission to the Ghana Police Service. The chiefs should forward where they may and done my work.
Lands and Natural Resources Minister forwards findings of Forestry Commission investigations into activities of Akonta mining in the Nimre Forest Reserve to police to aid criminal proceedings. We'll hear also from anti-Galamsey advocates who say police are not showing enough commitment to act on petition against the company.
If we're going to tell Ghanaians that we're really serious in fighting this, then we need to ensure that it is not the small fries that we're catching, but those financiers and perpetuators like Akonta Mining Limited. They are the ones we should be arresting, investigating, prosecuting, and ensure that we're exacting the maximum punishment for them.
And in business, Ghana's Statistical Service justifies current inflation rate of 40.4%, insisting it reflects the true situation on the ground.
Later in sports, Black Stars head into the World Cup without a clear first-choice goalkeeper as Georgia Wallacott and Richard Ofori miss out. We'll bring you a comprehensive analysis and reaction as Black Stars coach Otto Addo names his 26-man squad for the World Cup.
I think the coach has assembled a very young squad, blend with a little bit of experienced players, and I believe they are. If they get all the coaches' tactics right, they are going to really do well.
Basically, I think there are not too many major surprises in the squad. All in all, Otto Addo has named a squad that can compete at the World Cup.
Please stay for that and more here on Newsnight. You will also to join us with your thoughts and comments. It's via WhatsApp 055-1111-997. We are live on Twitter Spaces, on Facebook and myjoyonline.com, and over 30 affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions. Please stay for details after this.
The other day, I visited Kweku at his spunky new office to congratulate him on opening his business. And man, was I impressed. The business is just moving quick. The sales, customers, everything is just working seamlessly. The secret? He said,
it's MTN Business Broadband. In this fast-paced environment, we need fast and reliable internet to support all business types. No laggy online meetings, great download and upload speeds, impeccable business management systems, all inclusive. I mean, you can have it all.
Shout! I signed on immediately.
To enable your business stay ahead and stay connected, make sure you're signed on to the best internet made just for businesses. MTN Business Broadband. Sign up today on broadband.mtn.com.gh and manage your account on my MTN app. Call 0244 308 111 for more information.
MTN.
Paul's Fitness Center, the premier destination for fitness in Ghana. Meet the indefatigable captain.
There are 3 things that I love doing. Number 1, workout. Number 2, workout. Number 3, workout. Workout put mind, soul, and body together.
The captain has spoken. Paul's Fitness Center, East Legon Branch, Lizzie Sports Complex, Cotton Street, East Legon, Accra, Ghana, 0302 519 675. Kumasi branches, Officers Mess Branch, Denyame, Major Kobina Drive, Kumasi 0541 871 602. Golden Tulip Kumasi City Branch, Raintree Street 0322 492 647. Pulse, the premier destination for fitness in Ghana.
The 2022 World Cup begins in no time, and Multimedia Group Limited is championing a unique support wave across the world for the Black Stars. Come Qatar 2022, the nation will be one, rallying behind the Black Stars with one cheer song.
God bless our homeland, Ghana, hey.
The Cheer Song promotion is sponsored by Global. Order anything, we deliver in minutes.
10 bets for the better.
Airtel Tigo Sika Coco data bundles. Enjoy huge data at lower costs. Simply dial *111# now. Airtel Tigo. Life is simple.
And later, we'll bring you the update from the camp of the Black Stars. The full squad has now been named. Our sports colleagues will join us with details and analysis. But there's only one place to start tonight, MFA.
Yeah, we start from the Accra International Conference Center. That NAS expose currently underway. My colleague Kujo Yankson, also the host of the Super Morning Show, will join us shortly because we are told we're in the middle of it right now. And if you're missing out on the action, you ought to stay with us. We'll give you details of it. But the Deputy Minority Chief Whip, Ibrahim Ahmed, is asking President Akufo-Addo to commission the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO, to open parallel investigations into claims made by Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Charles Edubuahin, who's now being sacked by President Akufo-Addo. In the said documentary by the investigative journalist Anas Arimiyawa Anas, the former Minister of State at the Finance Ministry is said to have told the undercover investigators that the Vice President needed $200,000 as an appearance fee before meeting with some supposed investors. The minister is also reported to have said and encouraged the businessmen to consider investing in bonds when they expressed interest in doing business in Ghana, as well as doing business with the vice president's siblings. While speaking to Joy News in an interview, Ibrahim Ahmed said he considers the minister's claims serious and must be explored by the other anti-graft institutions focusing on financial crimes.
Yes, I was going to call for an independent parliamentary probe. And even though I'm a leader in parliament, I was not satisfied with the work done by the previous parliamentary probe on the same issue. And because parliament couldn't do effective work in investigating the Asensu and others one, and the way the police themselves covered up, the role Tiwa played, all have resulted into emboldening other ministers in continuing it, because it's their government that is in power. So whatever happens, nothing will go anywhere. So now, even to call for independent parliamentary probe will not be that effective, because Parliament couldn't do it, and it will be business as usual. So now, I think the president, in handling it to the special prosecutor, may not be enough, but Yoko itself must come on board. If the 2 or 3 independent institutions are investigating on the same matter, at least one may come out genuinely with a good result. Other than that, it is a new discovery that people are making money out of, and it is not a good sign for our democracy.
Well, let's head to Parliament and stay a while longer on this issue, because Evans, when the minister was sacked, that letter was issued by the office of the president, and it stated that after a meeting with the president or speaking to Edubuahin, the president decided that he should be sacked or step aside. But we were told also that he had intentions of resigning, amongst others. But the concern that we are hearing from a ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee in Parliament, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, he's raising some concerns about why the president took that decision when indeed, in accordance with the Constitution, the Vice President is supposed to be acting in his stead since he's on a private visit to the UK. Let's bring in Mr. Ablakwa really on what the concerns are about this particular decision by President Akufo-Addo. Let's walk through it, Mr. Okujeto Ablakwa. What really is the concern for you?
Well, good evening, MFA. Let me be clear. The Minister of State at the Ministry of Finance, Charles Edubuahin, does not only deserve to be dismissed, there is the need for full-scale investigations into not only this particular expose, but what appears to be a pervasive culture. Remember cash for seats. Remember the Galamsey expose by Anas. Remember number 12 also by Anas, where you see a lot of influence peddling, officials claiming that with money you can have access to the president. You remember also the Kennedy Japan allegations about people selling access. So there appears to be a certain pervasive culture which will have to be probed and investigated so far as this Akufo-Addo Bawumia government is concerned. But specifically, on the dismissal of the disgraced Charles Edubuahin, if you pay regard to Article 68 of the Constitution, it provides that whenever the president is absent from Ghana or is for any other reason unable to perform the functions of his office, the vice president shall perform the functions of the president until the president returns or is able to perform his function. This is the reason why anytime the president is leaving the jurisdiction, there is formal communication and the vice president takes over. Remember that the Supreme Court has also pronounced on this provision under Article 68 of the 1992 Constitution. And the Supreme Court has held that regardless of modern technology and other modern ways of communicating, and whether the president is even on official assignment and so is acting whilst he's out of the jurisdiction as president, this constitutional provision is clear when the president is out of the jurisdiction, the vice president acts. Now, per my unimpeachable tracking of the president's movement, the president returned from his Egypt-US trip on Friday, the 11th of November, Friday night, and then jetted out again yesterday, the 13th of November, to London, this time on a private visit. So when the press secretary, Mr. Eugene Ahin, puts out a statement and says that the president has, with immediate effect, dismissed Charles Eduboy, that is today the 14th. When the president is out of the jurisdiction, the president is not in Ghana. In the face of Article 68, I would have thought that the vice president, who is acting president, will be the one to take these decisions. Because you see, you do not know what tricks Mr. Eduboy has up his sleeves. You don't want to create any wiggle room or any escape route for the gentleman and his lawyers. And it is important that the Constitution is respected.
But Mr. Blakwa, could it not also be that we can't say for a fact that the president was not privy to this particular documentary before jetting out last night? Could it not be that that decision was taken before the president went out and was communicated to us today? Is that not a possibility?
So they should tell us. They should tell us. You see, as members of parliament, and indeed as public officials, we take an oath to defend the Constitution of Ghana. When you see potential breach, you must draw attention. You must ensure that your oversight duty in making sure that particularly the executive arm of government is acting above board and respecting the laws of the country. You must carry out those functions. And we are saying that if it is the case that the decision was taken yesterday and perhaps the press statement put out today is in error, and that when it says that he's dismissed with immediate effect and is dated today the 14th, and that is the president who is taking such actions. You see, when the Supreme Court has pronounced on the matter, in this Professor Kweku Azar case.
Well, I get the law. You raised the issues about the law earlier. I get all that. But considering also that this particular allegations were actually made about the vice president himself, is a key feature in this documentary. If he had taken this decision also to sack Charles Eduboy, we will not be talking about issues about conflicts and amongst others and tampering with evidence amongst others.
That should not arise. Remember that we are calling for a full-scale probe into the matter. So the extent of his involvement or not will be established when we have a full-scale probe. At this point, I think that it is only fair that the vice president is given the benefit of the doubt. But what is really critical at this point is that we all must be clear in our minds that Article 68 is being respected, the Supreme Court's pronouncement on this matter is being adhered to, and that those at the presidency have averted their minds, so that you don't give Charles Eduboy any escape route to come tell us someday that this so-called dismissal is a nullity and they don't go by it and all of that.
Okay, we're grateful. We'll leave it here. That's the ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament, Mr. Samuel Okujeto.
So we've heard from the minority side in Parliament largely, but you recall, MFA, that the Charles Eduboy is one of two ministers appointed by the president that the majority MPP MPs wanted sacked even before Anas's revelations.
Exactly.
Now he's been
the finance
sacked,
minister
and the
Ken
finance
Ofori-Atta,
minister himself, and then Charles Eduboy. Now he's been sacked. So I wonder what that the group of NPP MPs who went public asking for him and his boss, the finance minister, to be sacked, what they make of the turn of events now. Let's speak to the man who addressed the press conference the first time they went public. He is the NPP MP for Asante-Kim North constituency, Andy Kwame Piakubi, and joins us on the telephone line right now. Mr. Piakubi, thank you for your time here on Newsnight.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
So, I'm pretty sure you follow the developments. Charles Edubuahin is now being sacked. Your reaction?
Well, the president has done the needful, and we are happy.
Pardon me, I struggle to hear what you just said, sir.
I'm saying that the president has done the needful.
We're having a challenge with the line. Let's see if we can get a better connection to Andy Appiah-Kubi. But I get the sense that he's saying that they are
done the needful
and
they're happy.
They're happy with it.
But you know also that they held a press conference just about last week also, raising concerns about the fact that they would not allow the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, to actually present the budget, which we are learning now may happen next week or so. So once he comes back, I'm sure these are issues.
And in fact, even for Charles Edubuahin, it had been rumored before
that he
had resigned, and he had issued a statement subsequent to say he had not resigned. And then, of course, then this happens today that the president says emphatically he has been sacked. He's denied allegations against him, though. We'll hear from Andy Appiah-Kubi. But we know, too, from the vice president's own office, and he's at the center of the allegations that had been leveled by, as we know now, the Anas Arime Anas, and obviously attributed to the individual in question, which is Charles Edubuahin, who is gone. My colleague, Kojo Yangsing, spoke to him earlier, and he told us that the vice president is actually now meeting his own lawyers on this as part of exploring all other options on the table to ensure that the man is punished, because the president believes that he deserves all the punishment coming his way. We'll hear him pretty shortly. We'll hear him shortly, but Andy Appiah-Kubi is on the telephone line right now. Hopefully we can hear him. Mr. Appiah-Kubi, apologies, the connection to you wasn't great earlier. I heard you say that the president had done a needful. Oh, goodness me, we've lost him again. But let's listen to Dr. Gideon Bwako speaking to my colleague Kojo Yangsing earlier.
Then probably he was seeking favors from people, or it could have as well be a political grandstanding. That's it.
Now, the vice president in his statement, which I'm reading off Facebook, said, and I quote, "I would like to state that if what the minister is alleged to have said is accurately captured on the video, then his position as Minister of State is untenable. He should be dismissed summarily and investigated." Investigated by whom?
Well, that one is not the vice president who takes the ultimate decision. He thinks in his mind, as he said, that if everything that has been accounted for by Anas is the case, then he thinks the minister didn't organize himself well or conduct himself well and should be summarily dismissed and investigated. But we know the law enforcement agencies and people who have been tasked to do that, or institutions, the special prosecutor is there, the police is there, the CID is there. Thankfully, the president has also issued a statement or acted to, relieve Mr. Charles Edubuahin of his position. And I think the other aspect of it is what the vice president calls for, full-blown investigation into this. And I'm sure by now already people have prompted the special prosecutor or the police or CID to take action on that.
Right. Not too long ago, the president was implicated in another influence peddling scandal concerning Kwesi Nyantichi. In that case, the president reported it to the police. Is the vice president going to report this to law enforcement?
I think, the first step that he had to take is the statement that he has issued, and subsequent to the statement and subsequent to the action taken by the vice president, the vice president will also have to be advised by lawyers and government lawyers, and the next action will be taken.
Dr. Bwako, when you had the opportunity to speak to Anas about this yesterday, did he tell you when this recording of Charles Edubuahin happened?
In fact, those details or detailed information have not been given to me. He only spoke to me about an aspect that involves the name of the vice president and asked me whether or not something like that is the case. And I told him, no, the vice president, as I know, will never do such a thing. I haven't seen the video myself. He hasn't given me any detailed information, but he made me aware that today he will air the documentary. And so if I have time, I should watch it. And then if there's anything, I'll get back to him.
And we'll go live to the Accra International Conference Center pretty shortly to see if they've spotted Gideon Boako or members of the Vice President's office, and of course watching this. But let's return to Andy Apia Kubi, who was speaking to us earlier. Hopefully we can get him on a good connection now. Mr. Apia Kubi?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great to have you. You were giving me your reaction, sir, before we lost you due to bad connection.
Yes. I was saying that the president has done what we expected him to do, and we are very happy about that. And we congratulate the president for taking that action.
Does it matter that his decision to sack him had nothing to do with your initial demands and the basis for it, and everything to do with something else, an allegation which is, as of tonight, unproven?
As far as I'm concerned, I am not privy to the said allegation, except that I know that we have petitioned the president to relieve Honorable Charles Adubuahi of his responsibility in the ministry, which he has done. So I don't know what premise he relied on in undertaking this assignment. So I'm happy that Adubuahi has been relieved of his position in the ministry, and that is all. For now, I cannot speak to any other allegation except our petition to the president.
But your petition was not the basis for the dismissal, for the termination of his appointment. Doesn't that say a lot about the president and whether or not he will listen to you or your view matters in the decisions he's made in this regard?
No, as I said before, I'm not sure that the decision of the president is also premised on any other allegation. I'm not sure about that. But what I know for a fact is that we petitioned the president to relieve him of his responsibility. And as far as I am concerned, that is what I have witnessed, and I'm happy about it.
I want to read to you the statement from the presidency signed by the Director of Communications, and he gave a reason for the dismissal. He says, after being made aware, quote, after being made aware of the allegations leveled against the minister in the expose Galamsey economy, the president spoke to Mr. Dubois, after which he took the decision to terminate his appointment and also to refer the matter to the special prosecutor for further investigation. So that's the basis, not your petition.
Well, anyhow, the petition was also premised of something. So I cannot also say that it was without consideration of any other allegation. So in totality, the petition was premised on a certain allegation, probably include which was put together by another team. So anyhow, we think that the president has done what he ought to have done, and we are happy.
You just made a point about the petition, that it also was based on a certain allegation. Am I right to assume that part of that was based on allegation of conflict of interest against Charles Dubois as it relates to himself as a minister and his business, which is an investment firm?
Our petition was based on the utility of allegations. So I cannot single out one of them as the cause of the president's decision. Before we came to the president with the petition, we had considered a lot of allegations and a lot of possible infractions that came to our notice.
What are these allegations that you put in your petition?
Every one of them, including that which has been tabled by this new allegation carried out by this president.
This latest revelations specifically borders on allegations that he was arranging a meeting with the vice president and charging 200,000 cedis for. Secondly, that he was taking 20% on a 500 million cedi investment. And thirdly, he was also advising that they buy bonds in this country. Were any of these in your petition?
Well, our petition was premised on allegations of wrongdoing in the office, which may include some of the things that you are referring to. So as far as we are concerned, we are convinced that we needed to petition the president to release him. So, and that is exactly what we did.
But you're not. I was asking for specific. What was the specific allegation you included?
There were many that we considered, and we arrived at that point that we need to petition the president to release him. So I cannot recount the number of allegations that we considered and the fact and figures that we also was also there for us. But to say that in the totality of it all, we took a decision to petition the president to relieve him of his position.
Would you say, I mean, is it right to assume that your allegations bordered on corruption, conflict of interest, and general wrongdoing?
Well, I cannot say that it was only corruption and conflict of interest. I'm telling you that we considered a lot of allegations, including those that you have mentioned, and the general performance of the person in the office.
So, one down, one more in the position still, Ken Ofori-Atta. Are you still determined to have him out?
The position has not changed at all. The position of Ken must follow is also very right, and we are pursuing that vigorously.
Are you sticking with your agreement with the president to wait after the budget and the appropriation and the IMF deal?
Our position has changed since last week, that the action to relieve them should be immediate. And that is the position we have now.
So you will not entertain Ken Ofori-Atta presenting the budget to you in Parliament?
Like I always tell you, I don't have the mandate of the group to speak to that fact. But for me as a person, I will not be present.
Have you communicated this change of position to the president since you met him, and he was the one who suggested this previous position to you? Have you communicated back to him?
We have communicated this to our leadership as a caucus, and I'm sure that it will be forwarded to the president.
So, for clarity, you're saying if the day of the budget presentation comes and it's Ken, you will boycott that proceeding?
I'm saying that we will have to take in tomorrow's meeting. We will take that so the finance minister comes to the house to present the budget. But what I'm assuring you is the fact that me as a person, I won't be present if it will take Ken Ofori-Atta to present the budget.
The first time you went public, you said that if he is not removed, you would boycott government business. Is that still the position of the group?
The position is still unchanged. And indeed, like I told you, we are going to have a meeting tomorrow and look to affirm that position. Or if we have to alter it, it will come out of tomorrow's meeting. But for now, what I know is that the group has taken a decision not to participate in any assignment from the president, from the finance minister.
Thank you very much. That is Andy Apiakubi. He is a member of parliament for Asante Kim North, and he was the spokesperson for the group when they first went public, demanding the sacking of both Charles Edubuahin, who is now gone, and Ken Ofori-Atta, who remains.
Well, let's go to the Accra International Conference Center. I'm itching to know what is contained in that particular documentary. That's the Galamsey economy. That's the expose there. And Kojo Yankson is there for us. So he's a great storyteller. So he can walk us through everything that he's watched so far. Kojo, a blow-by-blow account. Give it to us.
MFA, in fact, I could probably sum up this documentary in 5 sentences. It starts off with a recap of the administration of President Akufo-Addo. From the very beginning, his swearing in to the current economic crisis. Then it moves on to the details of the challenges the president's administration has faced, from Galamsey to the banking crisis to the current depreciation of the cedi. Then it finally settles in on the issues that have made this documentary notorious. The issue of selling access. And it shows in detail a meeting that Charles Edubuahin, who appears in this documentary, to be communicating with a sheikh who is off camera through an interpreter who sounds Ghanaian. And the entire conversation is faithfully reproduced in this documentary. You can see Charles Edubuahin in profile. He's wearing a black suit. He has a goatee. His glasses are on. He's sitting in front of a coffee table on which piles of money are placed. And he's communicating with this sheikh, promising him access to people like the vice president and the president, who he describes as like an uncle to him. So essentially, the documentary points out clearly Charles Edubuahin offering access to the vice president for a total of about $200,000, while he charges 20% of the value of a $500 million investment as what he calls appearance fee. Now, if there is any conclusion to be drawn from this documentary today, it is that Anas is seeking to put a spotlight on a person who already is entangled in accusations of conflict of interest. In this documentary, he catalogued Charles Edubuahin's Black Star investment and the role plays in the issuance of bonds and all the controversy that came up over the past few months, where conflict of interest was the accusation leveled against Charles Edubuahin and the finance minister, Kemi Koyaka. It's all reproduced in the documentary with footage from Joy News, from Joy FM, and other media houses to paint the picture. But by the end of it, the one takeaway, the one revelation is this conversation that Mr. Edubuahin is seen having in a hotel room. All of it filmed in profile from his left side while he sits in front of this dollar-covered coffee table, making negotiations to take up to $100 million, 20% of a $500 million investment as appearance fee, and offering access to the vice president, who he says will happily take $200,000 as a thank you for facilitating this investment.
About the duration of this entire expose?
About 40 minutes in total.
And
it is split into three parts.
Mm. In reading parts of this in the Crusading Guy newspaper today, we heard about a lawyer and then also a chief, a lawyer who is not in government, amongst others. There was that vivid description, just that we didn't get a name. After watching this expose, did you get who this lawyer is? Did you get any name?
MFA, this is the most intriguing part of the documentary. As you rightly said, the lawyer is described quite faithfully in the article. But in the documentary, this lawyer is only mentioned in passing. And the only thing said about him is that he gave advice that if someone is investing in Ghana, they ought to retain at least 75% of the enterprise and leave 25% to a local partner. There is nothing criminal sounding about that. So either what Anas alluded to in the article that we read this morning has been removed from the documentary this evening, or it was played up as something done wrong, but in the documentary, no such thing is shown. No such person is shown. No such name is mentioned. It is as if there is no such issue for us to deliberate on.
Now, Kojo, so this aspect of the documentary is very interesting because I want to read what was captured in the Anas article today. Not only was this reference to the legal practitioner made, they reproduce copious quotes of what he's supposed to have said. And in that article, it says, in the same sequence, there was a legal practitioner who is not a public office holder in a separate meeting. A senior solicitor and a traditional chief said he was not in a position to control or suggest a package for the president and the vice in a meeting in a hotel room in the UAE. The barrister told the Tiger Eye investigators, posed as business tycoons, that he could not manipulate the president to do his bidding. However, he would try to help them have access to the president and his vice and some influencers to do their business in Ghana. Here's it, Kojo. The quotes attributed to this lawyer. Quote, I will try. I will do my best. You see, we are talking of the president. So I cannot tell you that I can control the president, but I can tell you that I will do my best to ensure that whatever that you want shall be done, he said in a conversation. And then they continue with another quote, a long one. This lawyer is reported to have said, quote, you see, I think it's a bit too early for me to start to talk about these things. I mean, talk about the package for the president. And this is in response to the sheikh having asked this lawyer how much the president will require if they want to meet him. The quote continues, quote, for me, sir, money is important, but money is not everything. It is a relationship. When we have a good relationship, money will come. So don't worry about the package. We can always do that. You are a good man. So let's leave that one out. But in Ghana, when you set up business and you engage local partners, you, the investor, you must retain at least 75%, which gives you the control. At least, let's say, speaking in respect of the bank, he advised. And then, this is end of quote, entire quote attributed to the lawyer. And Anas then ends by saying, he also said he was instrumental in the appointment of Edubuahin. You are saying, Kojo, that in the entire 40 plus minutes of this documentary, there was no part of the documentary where you saw or heard anybody speaking and uttering these words.
Evans, that is exactly what I'm saying. The narrator of the documentary alludes to the fact that the undercover operatives also met with a lawyer. And the only reference to the conversation that they had with this lawyer is this recommendation of a 75%, 25% split for any foreign investor coming into Ghana to do with a local partner. This is mentioned by the narrator. That is it. There is no sign of this lawyer. There is no footage of this meeting. And none of these quotes that you have copiously read out are played out in the documentary. None of them, Evans. So God alone knows what happened between this morning, when that article was published by Anas, and this evening, when this documentary was aired by Anas. But the lawyer is nowhere to be found.
Now, and Kojo, again, the article by Anas in the Crusading Guide said they met this lawyer and the chief in a room, in a hotel room in the United Arab Emirates. Same place. Well, not the same hotel, but they met Edubuahin too in a hotel room in the United Arab Emirates. You saw Edubuahin's clip, but I did not see a clip in the hotel room
of the lawyer and the chief.
That is correct, Evans. No clip of a lawyer or a chief or both. Only a clip of Charles Edubuahin in a hotel room speaking to a sheikh off camera through an interpreter whose voice you hear.
And at the end of it, there was no watch out for part 2.
There is no warning of any subsequent publication or video or any kind of screening that will continue the story. It ends with the narrator saying, God bless our homeland Ghana, and then the map of the flag of Ghana occupies the screen.
Kojo, thank you. We'll leave it here for now. That's Kojo Yankson, Super Morning Show host. And tomorrow, you want to join the Super Morning Show team. They'll bring you all the showdown of the economy expose. Galamsey economy, right? Okay, we'll get all details shortly. But let's do business. Let's relax a bit. Let's do business now. George Riafe. We are told fuel prices are going to go down at least we'll talk about it. But George, what's in business?
Well, let me further. Ghana Statistical Services has justified the current inflation numbers, insisting that it reflects the true situation on the ground, rubbishing claims that inflation is more than 100%, and that could talk about how that could even feed to the fuel prices and all those things, and how that will happen as well,
And what's the outlook like?
Well, the outlook that we are picking up from the industry suggests that we could be seeing some reduction in fuel prices. It has to be linked to the improved supply of dollars coming from the Bank of Ghana, and this is what we are picking from. These are the bulk distributors. So if their prices are going to drop, and if they pass it on to the oil marketing companies, and they have to pass it on to us, but if they pass it on to them and they don't pass it on to us, then we might not see. But what we are picking is that it is going to go down.
Go down by
maybe about 2 or even 3 cities. That's what we are picking up. So the economists always want to say, all other things being equal, it is going to go down.
Okay.
To other news, and Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta charges Ghanaians to remain resolute despite the current economic challenges. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business, Ghana Pay and Allianz Life.
Son, we are so proud of you for setting up this hospital. I really love those hospital beds and waiting chairs. By the way, did you import them?
No, Dad, I didn't. I actually got them from Kindle Books and Stationery right here in Ghana.
Wow. We also bought our office supplies, safes, executive desks and chairs from Kingdom, and they gave us expert advice on how to set up our office.
Guys, that makes 3 of us. I also got our sofa and bedroom sets, plus our dining hall furniture for our new home from Kingdom.
Wow, Mom, that makes 4 of us. I usually get my stationery items from Kingdom, and my teacher also mentioned that our classroom furniture was provided by Kingdom.
So there you have it. Whenever you're thinking about setting up an office or acquiring furniture for your home, etc., Kingdom Books and Stationery should be your first point of call. With over 40 years experience in the industry, we stock and supply a wide variety of globally sourced office and home furniture, stationery and equipment. Visit our head office, Osu Akwaje, or our office near the Osu Stadium. We're also in Tema Community 1, opposite Olam SHF, Kumasi KNUST campus, UCC Cape Coast, and now at the Marina Mall, Airport City. Or call us 0302 764101, 764209, or 762792. Visit our website www.kingdomgh.com.
Allianz, insurance since 1890. At Allianz Life Ghana, we have a wide range of life insurance packages to suit all pockets, from individuals, groups, associations, and businesses. We cover your employees, your funerals, pensions, children's education, and your future. Call us on 0302 267 892 or visit our website www.allianz-gh.com for more inquiries. Allianz Life, we secure your future.
Alande.
Ghana Pay Alande.
Hey, finally, Ghana Pay Alande.
Do more your way on Ghana Pay. Send and receive money at 0 transaction fees. Pay bills, buy airtime and data. Transfer money in and out of your bank account and so much more with Ghana Pay. Dial *707# to register for Ghana Pay or download the Ghana Pay app from the Play Store or App Store.
Alande, Alande. Ghana Pay Alande.
Ghana Pay. Your money, your way.
This service is powered by Gibbs.
When everything works in your car, it all sounds so smooth. But when you replace them with inferior parts, it doesn't quite sound the same. Get original Peugeot and Citroen parts and expert servicing from Silver Star Auto, the official distributor for Citroen and Peugeot in Ghana. Visit silverstar.com.gh or follow us on social media for more details.
Afiwe, Black Stars fans say attempted Yeah, Jai! Team selection.
Yeah, Jai!
Na coaching Ejumanin Swe.
Yeah, Jai!
Hey, now Black Stars beat maybe. Saka Sanonso.
Yeah, Jai!
No negative talk. Positive talking kwa. Mama yen kamum. Qatar 2022 way. Na enter Black Stars echi. DSTV the 64 matches ni na be bro with DSTV compact so for 169 Ghana cedis beji decoder and the year. Ghana, it's our moment.
Now Jordan, are you correct?
Hey, Maza. Yejai.
You're welcome back to Business on Newsnight. The Ghana Fiscal Service has justified the current inflation rate, insisting it represents the true reflection of developments on the ground. The assurance is coming on the back of recent concerns that the general price levels being published is far higher than what is being quoted by the National Office. For instance, someone like Professor Steve Hankey or John Hopkins University says the current inflation is more than 115%. Now, but governance statistician Professor Samuel Kobninim insists the model being used here in Ghana meets international standards and best practice worldwide.
What Professor Steve Hankey does is what is called the purchasing power parity approach. And essentially he's assuming that every commodity is internationally tradable, every inflation that you can think about only goes through exchange rate effect. And this is simply not right because it's not every item that would harness the full effect of exchange rate. So if an item is internationally tradable, then you see why, because if you are importing that item, then you can see why you can have the inflationary effect. But other items like Kobe, transport fares, and so on are country-specific. The effect of the exchange rate would not be the same across all these commodities. So all that he does is to pick the exchange rate, the extent to which the city is devaluing, and then on the basis of that, calculate inflation. It's a
Professor Samuel Kobninim, he is a government statistician. Now, don't give up on Ghana in these challenging economic times. Now, that's the call coming from Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta in a speech read on his behalf at the launch of the You Start Ghana Jobs and Skills application portal here in Accra. According to him, the ministry recognizes the current plight of Ghanaians and it's working to help address the situation. Let's hear John Kuma, who actually read the minister's speech here in Accra.
Indeed, in the last 5 years as Minister of Finance, sometimes it feels like once you start to solve one problem, another emerges. So life is tough for many people all over the world, and Ghana is no different. But we and the fellow ministers gathered here today, under the President's direction, are more than committed to ensure that we come out of this together with one of the strongest and most resounded and most resourced youth this nation has ever seen.
Now, speaking at the same program, World Bank Country Director Pierre Laporte revealed that further engagements are ongoing to design new initiatives and support for jobs for the youth.
Currently, the World Bank is working with the government on a new project that would support some aspects of the Youth Start program, following detailed consultations and design to improve the screening criteria and targeting of beneficiaries, while at the same time focusing on strategic sectors of the economy that hold potential for expansion, growth, and job creation for the youth as a long-term solution.
World Bank Country Director Pierre Laporte. Now, enterprises will from the end of this year be paying 30 Ghana cedis as renewal fees for business registrations. This represents 5 cedis increase over what they were paying for last year. There's more in this report.
This increment will also affect sole proprietorships and subsidiary business names as well as companies in default, including churches, associations, unions, foundations, schools, fund clubs, external companies, and professional bodies. Companies and partnerships in default when it comes to filing of annual returns will from December this year have to pay 600 Ghana cedis instead of 450 Ghana cedis. The Office of the Registrar of Companies also added that companies filing their annual returns together with financial statements will also now pay 60 Ghana cedis. When it comes to external companies submitting their group accounts, new rates are $690. Delays or default will attract $750 in addition to fees for all the years. Partnership renewal has also gone up, and these firms will be paying 60 Ghana cedis per year. More than 2,000 companies are said to be in default, and their names are expected to be taken from the Registrar of Companies books. The office was quick to add that action could be reviewed if they file their returns by end of this year. The Office of the Registrar of Companies also reminded all businesses that companies, partnerships, and sole proprietorships yet to migrate their business records onto the e-registrar application DAP re-registration have up to 31st January 2023 to do so and be in good standing to avoid sanctions.
An aviation expert is pushing for more sophisticated flight navigation systems in the country to help solidify Ghana's aviation space as one of the safest in the region. According to the Executive Vice President of Flight Path International, Captain Jonathan Kodig, this is needed to help reduce the human errors. He spoke to Joy Business at the West African Aviation Accident Prevention and Airline Performance Conference slated for tomorrow.
Accidents don't just happen. We normally say they are planned, which means they're a series of events, but series of events that we have not been able to detect to this point in time. Everything has been after we create the mistakes, the errors, what can we learn? But not from a preventative measures. Can we actually see them? So this is where the technology comes in. Has the capability to look at the series of events, the developments before a disaster actually happens. And it is the latest and last revolution in technology in terms of how can we make air travel safer.
And that's the Executive Vice President of Flight Path International, Captain Jonathan Kodik speaking there. And that's all for Business on Newsnight. So we look to see what will happen tomorrow. If these, when the BDCs pass it on to the OMCs, they'll pass it on to us.
Okay. Well, we look forward to that. It's time for sports. Well, this evening on PM Express, though, we'll be hearing from the Lands and Natural Resources Minister on what has happened with the Chairman Wuntumi issue, our Kunta mining situation. You want to catch that on PM Express. But let me hand over to the sports team, Razak Musbao. A lot happening on the sporting front. Take us away.
Stars just 10 days away from the team's first group game of the tournament against Portugal on November 24th. Atuado has reviewed his players for the Mundial, and only 2 players from Ghana's final list have played at the previous editions of the World Cup: Andre Ayew in 2010 and 2014, and Jordan Ayew in 2014. The squad also have 2 players from recent players who made themselves available for selection at the end of the 2021-22 season. Inako Williams and Mohamed Salisu make the list for the World Cup. There's also place for Abdul Salih Samed, who has been in good round of form for RC Lan, and also have Kotokos, Dalad Ibrahim, and Accra Heart of Folks Efie Banya. Fenty Tahiru is in the studio. Fent, 26-man squad finally unveiled. I mean, it's quite interesting number of players have been called up. Tell me, what should we expect from these players?
I think generally it's a very good squad. It's one that is balanced, a good mix of youth and experience. Obviously, people have reservations about who should have made the squad, who shouldn't have made the squad. And I think that's normal for most World Cup squads across the world. But I think ideally and generally speaking, I think this is a very good squad. It's one that can form the foundation for at least the next 2 AFCON tournaments. This tournament, the World Cup itself, extremely important. And if we can get our tactics right and get the personnel right, I think we have a good enough team to try and make it out of this group.
I mean, you talk about Mohamed Salisu, you talk about Inaki William, Tariq Lamptey, Dennis Adoy, and a few other players who have been added to the squad. And a lot of people are expecting quite a lot from them, particularly taking into consideration the quality they bring to bear. What do you think they will add to the squad at the World Cup?
I think immediately Mohamed Salisu, it's almost setting starter at this competition. And I know a lot of people have had issues regarding what's going to happen. Are you going to drop Jiku or are you going to drop Amate and start him? I think there's a way to play all 3 of them together, and they will do well, because let's not kid ourselves. Salisu is the best centre back we have in this team, and he showed that when he came on in the second half against Brazil. Might have been his first game for the team, but he showed immeasurable composure and great ability. So we would need him if we had to deal with the kind of area threat that it seemed like Portugal in particular will bring into the team.
I mean, one of the concerns people have raised is the goalkeeping department. They talk about Danlad Ibrahim, they talk about Lawrence Atizigi, Manaf Nuruddin. The absence of Jojo Wallacott and Richard Ofori is one that has got a lot of people a bit skeptical about the team's performance within the goalkeeping department. I mean, what do you think about that?
It is worrying, mostly because the goalkeepers we have at the moment lack experience. But there are goalkeepers that are in good form. I think Atizigi is in fantastic form at club level. He hasn't exactly shown the same quality when he's come to the national team, but we haven't given him exactly too many opportunities either. So this is his chance to try and stake a claim for that number one spot, because a few weeks ago he probably wasn't on the plane. Suddenly he's not just going, he's in contention to be Ghana's number one. And I think that it's a challenge. It's not exactly our strongest position, but I think that the players should know that. And at the world stage, if he perform well, only good things happen.
Well, we've been speaking to some Ghanaians relative to Otto Addo's announcement today, and some of them have this to say.
I think the coach has assembled a very young squad, blend with a little bit of experienced players, and I believe they are if they get all the coaches' tactics right, they are going to really do well at the tournament. But you know, they are as people have been saying over the past few days, there are certain familiar names that are missing in the squad. That we believe that if these names were added to the squad, I believe it was going to build the in-depth nature of our squad.
Ghanaians all over the country would have hoped to see Joseph Painsil and Jeffrey Schlupp in the squad. Unfortunately, we couldn't see them. And at that press conference, at that gathering towards announcement of the players, we saw Otto Addo being asked this exact same question or something similar to this, and he talked about principles. He didn't really give us a reason why these players weren't called, but it's quite unfortunate.
And the World Cup begins on Sunday. We're looking forward to it. You don't want to miss PM Express later tonight. It's an interview with the Lands and Natural Resources Minister on the back of the COP27 in Egypt, Sharm el-Sheikh. We're looking at everything from the climate crisis, what's in it for Ghana, the Galamsey menace, they are contaminating, the conversation around the delegates that were sent, the number.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
All details will be explored at 9 p.m. on the Journal channel.
So on our social media platforms as well. Up next is That's My Opinion with Nanan Sakwao, the dilemma of 2024. I am MFA Powell.
And my name is Evans Mensah.